about a year ago, almost to this date, I would have been sat at work on a break right about now, reaching under my car seat for a bottle of rum I had tucked away there in order to top my levels of fuckery up. So I think we can agree things were pretty fucked. But beyond that, I mean, we'll just add that to, use of cocaine, use of fucking weed, um, and a whole shitload of other self-destructive negative cycles and patterns that I had going on. And I'd been on the healing journey for a couple of years prior to that. But as is the case when you're trying to undo 40 years of childhood trauma, um, you quite often double back and spiral the fuck out of control. And that's what happened. The breakdown of my long-term relationship with the mother of my kids was a factor. I mean, there was a fuckload going on in my head, and I mean, coming to understand why I was the way I was, or am the way I am, and where it all started is part of a process that is not easily fucking lived through. Um, so just to fill you in, I'll spin you a little yarn. As I'm ranting, I might as well fill you in. Um, my name's Phil, and I had some fairly severe childhood trauma. So my nervous system, my mind, my subconscious, whatever, all of it was on survival mode, fight or flight, and had been for 40 years. So elevated levels of adrenaline and cortisol pretty much consistently for all of that time. And then when you factor in the fact I've discovered that I'm ADHD, obviously there's PTSD involved and OCD. Those things all sort of mashed together to create a big fuckery salad, and and sort of weave together to really help yourself get in your own way in what your subconscious thinks is protecting you. So, a hypersensitive child that suffers childhood abuse, violence, etc. A hypersensitive child then discovers that the easiest way to defend themselves is to hide who they are because apparently being who they are gets them a kicking. Um, so you learn to lie. You learn to deceive people about who you are. So if you're hypersensitive, you then become very extroverted. So this translates to as life went on, I would be the small, loud guy in the room, classic short man disease. And then I'd go on to be I'd go on to choose a career in construction. So a hypersensitive child that likes it quiet and my own space and to be alone decides to go for one of the most dangerous and noisiest trades they can possibly do. It's a kind of self-destructive camouflage, hiding in plain sight. So there you go. There's just a little bit of background into what sort of goes on, or what I've learned goes on as a result of childhood trauma. And so, back to about a year ago, drinking it up, consuming drugs. I'd always been into recreational drug use since, my early teens. And back then it was recreation to a large extent. I mean, now I understand that I probably gravitated to it because ADHD, PTSD, childhood trauma, you crave dopamine. You want to feel better all the time. You want to escape from the reality of what's going on. And a lot of people have this. A lot of people have trauma. I mean, everybody has their own trauma, and I'm not saying that mine's the worst. In fact, there are people out there suffering substantially more trauma and have had, I mean, the children of Gaza, for example, at the moment, absolutely fucking shocking. But as with anything, it's a matter of perspective and it's relative to you as a person and an individual. So there's my own slice of personal hell. My father was violent and abusive. My mother, who was really loving, was a people pleaser who had her own traumas to deal with and failed to defend herself from violence or me. And so basically, you then end up with the two most important figures in your life not doing anything to help you, which leads you to feel a bit worthless as a child. And you develop all these patterns and things to protect yourself. As I said earlier, you lie, you hide, you you do whatever you can to avoid facing the reality of what's actually going on. I mean, that's one of my big lessons as I've gone on this healing journey: avoidance of stressful situations. To the point where I will avoid stressful situations like the deterioration of my long term relationship to the mother of my children, to the point where it just blows up. It descends into a self-sabotaging nightmare that nobody wants to face until it actually explodes in a horrendous way, and then you have to deal with it, and it's a real problem, which obviously compounded all the other trauma, ADHD, PTSD, OCD, and led me to where I was. Now you'll have to forgive me if I'm ranting. I mean, if you've looked at any of my other videos on my YouTube channel or anything I've done on my Instagram profile, Phil in a song 369, you'll see I've gone through some shit. I mean, it's not all reading poetry by candlelight. In fact, I would say the average day of healing yourself when you decide to really do the inner work, it looks a bit like this. Ah! And you go searching. If you want to fix yourself, you go searching. And out there, you have the likes of Tony Robinson and Joe Dispenza and a whole heap of other coaches and self improvement gurus who will have a bunch of very smooth looking videos teaching you to live in gratitude and and to do all these things, take plenty of cold showers and blah blah blah. And all of those things work, right? I'm into spirituality. I mean, when I hit rock bottom, source, the universe, whatever, showed its face and fucking saved my life. The minute I decided to change, um, all of a sudden I was kind of shown that all these things happen for a reason and are part of a learning and healing process, and taught me to look for a lesson in everything, every judgment you've got, every person you meet, every situation in your life that's ever gone on before. And it continues to go, because until you learn the lessons, you're going to keep repeating the same fucking cycles. And it's a real bitch, because the minute you start going down that road and looking for the lessons and looking at yourself, then you start seeing all your damage, all your scars. Um, you you start seeing all the hurt that was ever caused to you. But worse than that, once you identify your trauma, you then start to see what it made you do, not only to yourself, but to the people around you. So you like, another thing I do is when I get overwhelmed and with a dysregulated nervous system, that's quite a lot in stressful situations, or when I have a bunch of things going on, I self isolate, I cut people off, and me, my inner child, decides that that's a thing to be proud of. I'll cut people off and I'll fucking disappear into my own head and I'll go away until I'm fixed. But more often than not, you just kind of go away and burn situations, burn people, and continue to hide and run and avoid facing the reality of what's going on. And thus we get back to about a year ago again when things go and all the self-sabotage, all the abuse and addictions and fucked up shit that's gone on comes back to say, have a look at yourself. Have a look at yourself. There's things wrong you need to fix, and you can't keep running from them because else you're going to end up completely fucked. So there you go. That's why I say healing's a fucking bitch. And like I said, if you checked out any of the other videos on my channel or on my other social media, you'll see I decided that I needed to help people. And if you've learned and if you've healed yourself and if you've made a great deal of personal progress, like I have this past year or so, health, diet, exercise, meditation, spirituality, healing relationships, working through trauma, you know, all of those things lead you to want to help somebody else that is almost certainly going through similar things to you are. So I decided what I was going to do is I was going to be a mindset coach, a whatever coach. I was gonna, I was gonna change my job. I was gonna change my financial situation and fucking fix everything by helping other people and making money from it. And then I threw myself into it and it really helped. And I got out of my comfort zone and I learned some new skills and I did a bunch of shit that I'm actually quite proud of. But very recently, I've come back around to just facing up to the fact that I don't want to fucking be out on the coaching circuit. I want to help people, but I don't want to be in videos very smoothly saying, this is what you do. This is the way it is. Gratitude, meditation, all of this magic stuff happens and it's wonderful. And this is my life. It's fixed and it's fucking splendid. And look at what you could win if you do this, 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 and this. And to a large extent, the reason for that is that most of these people, and they are helpful and they make a lot of money, most of these people paint a very smooth picture. And in my experience, it's anything but that. And even when you heal a fuckload of your trauma, even if you know that the universe, your family, your friends, God, whoever is on your side helping you, um, it doesn't stop you from fucking hitting a brick wall again at times or spiraling out of control because you get triggered. And it doesn't matter how many of your previous triggers you heal, these traumas and patterns will keep presenting themselves. The only difference is with meditation, diet, exercise, cognitive behavioral therapy, fucking psychology, quantum physics, any number of things helping you, you're you're still you're still going to encounter problems, but you're going to cope with them better. And that's kind of why I'm here ranting at you, because you can have, a healed heart. You can heal trauma, but there's no, when you talk of integrating shadow, and exercising demons, you don't ever get rid of them. In fact, you shouldn't. You've got to be aware of where you came from in order to have a reference point to keep aiming for where you're going. And the thing is, there's not a finish line. There's not you don't tick a bunch of boxes. Yeah, meditation, diet, exercise, therapy, blah, 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 blah. And then there's a magic finish line and everything's fixed. That's just not the way it is. Life isn't ever going to be perfect. You aren't ever going to have a time where there aren't going to be challenges. And the whole self improvement journey is actually about learning to cope with it in as balanced and as functional way as possible while nurturing meaningful relationships, discovering a real purpose to why it is you're on the earth, and and then just trying to live your best life. And it's really that simple. So there it is. Healing's a bitch. Ran over for the minute. Um, I'm gonna do it again because it's like a little bit of therapy for me at the same time. But here's the thing. I know how to fix an awful lot about myself, and could help others, and I intend to. I mean, if any of my crazy ranting and exposing all the things that have happened to me, and what happened because of it. can help anyone feel less alone, and give them hope that, you can work your way out of massive negative spirals. You can learn to function again. You can get over wanting to die for it all to stop. Um, then, then I've done something. That's at least one person out there that might resonate with what I've said. And if not, I'm sure there are a bunch of trolls out there that will want to say something if they've watched this far or anyways through this video. And to be honest, I'm quite happy to get into it with them too, because I don't mind getting into it. And if you believe that there's fucking anything you can say that this thing hasn't already gone through and 10 times worse, you're kidding yourself. I mean, I tried to kill me. Yeah. What the fuck are you going to do? So yeah, rant to you next time. Keep your chin up.